Battlefield 6 launched its final mainline update for 2025, or so it would have seemed. But with new content and some additions to the game, it certainly will not be the last update of the year any longer. Whether via hotfixes or an additional major title update that require a more substantial download, things didn't necessarily go as intended with this update. So today we're running down what you need to know with Battlefield 6 Update 1.1.3.0. Drop your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe to the video with all things Battlefield 6 and even more FPS content I'd love to have in the community. But for now, let's get into it. So to preface, the visibly apparent content additions, I know there's visually apparent elements that are not content, but we're getting there in the effort to keep things concise. What this update was meant to bring along with it, firstly, was Icelock Empire State. I think this might be my favorite part of the update is the map itself, visually speaking. You can have any thoughts and arguments you'd like about the map layout and flow of Empire State itself, but as for visually, I think the snow theme and reskin looks pretty phenomenal, personally speaking. Love the contrast to that of the original. It changes the whole feel of the map, which is quite cool in my opinion. I think that if anything, this kind of adds to the idea in my head that I'd love to see more thematic reskins for like variable types of weather in Battlefield 6 in the future, so long as it doesn't take away from too many resources or hinder any new content that is just more so additive on top of what we'd already get. But I think seeing these variations are pretty cool, and hopefully in the future, if they do this type of thing again, they can include some more maps that are more universal for the Battlefield experience. Some of the bigger maps perhaps, so that you have vehicle play in the equation as well, not just infantry. Though for this map, I do understand why they chose infantry only with the mode that it's paired with, because I do not think that Icelock would work well on larger maps, which, speaking of, Icelock is the new limited time mode here for this event. This is an interesting one. The key thing is that you need heat sources, right? You need heat so you don't die, but also so you can regenerate your health. I think one of the biggest balancing acts with this mode initially is managing how you move around the map and recognizing that you will need heat sources to end up getting back any sort of health. That basically every engagement is a hardcore one at that, unless you're near a barrel with the fire in it to, again, regen that health. It certainly changes the dynamic of gameplay experience is what I'll say here with this. It's a much more methodical and slower pace of play with this mode if you want to thrive with it, which is again why I reference back to it. I don't think it really works well with the other maps if you were to bring this mode explicitly to like Myrick Valley or Liberation Peak or something like that. Those maps would have too much dead space in between the barrels that you'd see around the map, unless you just have like a just littering of them that it just looks ugly and kind of stupid. But when you'd be trying to cross like a no man's land field, there'd be certain death if you did, because you'd have no health regen again, unless there's just a million different barrels with fire in them to regen your health. That somebody could pick you off from like 150 meters away or something like that while they're huddled around a heat barrel, which is also why it's not entirely for me. Like, I like the concept here. I think it's a cool way to change the dynamic of the gameplay, and I can appreciate that. It's just from a subjective, my own personal experience, it was kind of frustrating playing solo earlier because I had about 4 to 5 games in a row that it was a complete blowout. I'm talking like a spread of 800 to 900 tickets because my team just could not push an objective, and with the heat sources, it ended up being any sort of gunfight you'd take would be a 1v2, 1v3, 1v4 sometimes, of 3 to 4 people huddled around that just gaining health back, whereas you just have no opportunity to do so. So to me, it had its flaws in that way and how it can be played, but perhaps that's the appeal for someone else, and that is totally fine. Like, I'm not saying this to complain, it's not entirely for me, and that's 100% fine. I can appreciate the mode for what it is, it just doesn't fit my playstyle as much. Now, additionally, we saw a limited time battle pass coming through, which is active for the next 2 weeks, that will have 11 tiers of things you can progress through. Again, you do have to keep in mind that these tiers are progressed only by playing the winter offensive modes in the standard multiplayer or the gauntlet mode for RedSec. Otherwise, you're just progressing your standard battle pass content. I quite like the tank, soldier, and NVO skins, to be honest with you. Gonna probably have to power through some of those matches to get these. Again, though, maybe it was just a bad sample size. Additionally, we also did see that Ice Pick melee weapon as that final 11th reward in those limited time battle pass items. But again, to progress that, you got to play those winter offensive modes. But that was the content side of things here. But the update also aimed to, via patch notes, tackle larger areas as well. One of the biggest ones that I think was immediately noticeable was that of the audio pass improving combat readability. In their patch notes, they said, with this update, we've made a wide range of audio improvements, including a dedicated tuning pass on footsteps to make movement clearer, easier to locate, and more readable at different distances. Now, have not jumped into the Battle Royale experience just yet. My usual squad wasn't on whenever I was grabbing footage here for this, but what I will say about the multiplayer experience, I think the audio, especially with footsteps, was actually improved, or at the least more audible. Now, this could be something that's subjective because audio is a very much so dependent thing on things like settings and profiles in-game, audio output type, like if you're using a headset, earbuds, a stereo system, your TV speakers, all of that kind of stuff is going to vary, and being a bit of an audiophile myself, I have an insanely good studio quality headset, so my quality is going to be much more precise than TV speakers on a flat screen from like 2017 or something like that. But in my subjective opinion, at least, I think they made the audible nature of things a bit clearer. Footsteps especially now feels like you're being run over by a stampede when there's a group of players near you. Directional consistency seemed a bit better in my early matches as well, which is definitely a nice thing. But again, this could be very much so subjective. They also aim to improve hit registration across situations. They enhanced close range visibility, refined weapon handling, improved readability across core gadgets, strengthened vehicle clarity and interaction, and breakthrough and rush layouts were changed as well. Or all of that so on paper. Here's the thing. For whatever reason, could be a million reasons, game development is truly a house of cards. While some things were fixed, yes, plenty more were broken. The immediate response after this update was a lot of things that became unplayable for people, and even potentially, as of this video going live, could still be unplayable. So again, while I personally did not experience these things we're about to list off, I am in no way discounting what others may have experienced, nor denying that these issues do exist. Some of these even acknowledged by EA and DICE explicitly. So just know, if you've experienced any of these things or any others, you are more than likely not alone. This update was not a clean patch. It was not something that was 100% perfect, but I've seen clips and reports of insane game stuttering to an unplayable degree. Like, you walk, then it'll just freeze for a good second or two, and then you just jump back, but it's a consistent thing. So that, like, every 3 to 5 seconds, you're having that insane stuttering. That's obviously something that is a huge problem. I personally saw this isolated to Steam. I don't know if this is something that's also on the EA app client, if it's also on consoles, but at least for PC and Steam, it was something that there was a mentioned workaround that if you go offline on your friends list and your profile on Steam, for whatever reason, that's something that does fix it to some degree. But again, maybe not. I personally haven't experienced this, so I've not had to try this workaround. Hit registration was also not what it was meant to be in some areas. A lot of people also reporting that they just don't feel like their shots are landing, that the consistency is not there, but also the firing range was bugged. As in, if you go to the firing range, you can aim off of the target and you'll still end up getting hit registration on that. So while that's not explicitly a sort of one-to-one tether to the in-world experience you'll have within Battlefield 6 matches, that is something that is not a great indicator that something, whether again isolated in the firing range or not, did not work as intended for this update. There were plenty of menu glitches not allowing players to pick game modes, which would require a game restart. Like, you literally just could not click on anything. Editing loadouts in any sort of down state or going into a down state meant you were just dead for the rest of the match. You couldn't actually respawn at all. Other instances of an inability to respawn after death for some players also persisted. Battle coin purchases were not working, as in you'd pay for the battle coins but not get your currency back. Bot kills returned to people's profiles, messing up stats. Weapon recoil adjustments that have not been stated were made apparently. The bloom bug seems to have made its way back in for certain weapons. Character model bugs were persistent. Supply pouches glitched and were blinding players, blocking their view after use. There was visual glare being too extreme in some instances, and other situations that may have come up. So far, again, there's some workarounds for some of that kind of stuff. Some things have been mentioned that they're in the works, but the game was and potentially is still a little bit of a broken mess at the moment. So again, while I say I like the look of the Ice Lock Empire State variation here, everything else being about neutral for me, this isn't something that I'm trying to pass over those issues. There are still plenty out there. So fingers crossed, we do have these fixes inbound. It has been mentioned they think they know the source of some of these issues, and hopefully should have a fix inbound for that. But for the time being, yeah, game's a little broken. But anyways, Battlefield 6's update introduced some good things if it works for you, some not so much, of course, if it is broken, but that's the update here, the final content update of Season 1 and what we have on offer, and not necessarily the final update for 2025 anymore. But I want to fill you guys in on what's new and what you may have missed out on. But let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this update? Like it, dislike it, think it has potential again. Once you get past those fixes inbound for persisting issues, let me know. If you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. Of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing running all things Battlefield 6 and other FPS content. I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.